What are we to make of the riots? It's true, people are worried about high levels of immigration. There are those who feel ignored, marginalised and despised by politicians and mainstream media.
Many of the comments that the media elites, the legacy media and the political class regard as being incendiary are actually views that are held by the normal people in this country. That's how far the window has gone.
Is Britain racist, or have political failures pushed tolerance too far?
They are scared of the new media, of social media platforms that encourage free speech like X, because they run counter to the established narrative. If it wasn't for places like X, we wouldn't know about the Muslim armed gangs rampaging through the streets. We wouldn't have seen them, beating up people, going into pubs. We would only have been given the sanitized, the approved version, which is that all of the violence is coming from one side only, rather than the true picture is that there are problems on both sides here.
I'm Philip Anderson, and this is Talking Point. It's on a sad note that we begin this episode. We remember those 3 girls whose young lives came to a tragic and unexpected end in Southport on Monday the 29th of July, 2024. Our thoughts and prayers are with their family and friends, and all those who knew and loved them. May you rest in peace. When it comes to violence on the streets, protests, as we've been seeing for the past week following the stabbing of those 3 young girls, the government have done nothing. They've not listened to the public.
I do get dismayed when I hear Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper talking about police are going to come down with the full force of the law, etc. on these people.
They won't talk about it because they have created this situation. We have had, in the last 25 years since the election of New Labour, more immigration than in the last 2,000 years combined.
This has been brewing for a long while, since the riots of 2011.
We saw the political class talking about the injustice, about the poor living conditions that made people riot. We saw the same thing at the time of Black Lives Matter. We saw people like Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner talking about racism and saying, we understand why you feel angry about what happened to George Floyd and the racism and white privilege that exists.
Putting these guys in prison isn't going to deal with the sort of core issues.
Any sailor will tell you that you don't worry about the surface currents, you always worry about the undercurrents.
But they're not actually talking about the root cause, and they need to start listening and understanding that they need to address the cause rather than the symptoms.
And it's been swathes of population, not just a few, not just a handful, not just small pockets of population, but across the country, major cities where clashes have occurred, where people are now venting their anger, their frustration at how they've been treated, at the failed policies.
All of the sociological studies, all of the economic studies show that the increased ethnic diversity on local neighbourhood levels leads to a reduction in social trust, leads to an increase in crime, an increase in the deterioration of towns and cities, and essentially people become much more untrustworthy towards each other.
We seem to be a nation that likes to silence the voice, treat the symptoms, but never the underlying cause.
We don't condone the violence, but there's an awful lot of unhappy people in this country at the moment that want something to be done, and I don't think until they start to address that this problem's going to go away.
No one's asking why they've taken this drastic step, which has to be deplored, of course. It's deplorable, but there are millions more people than that who are equally angry, who haven't taken to the streets. They're losing their country, they feel dispossessed, and their towns and cities have changed beyond all recognition from the cities that they were born in.
the storming of the migrant hotels is testimony to the very fact that, everybody have had enough and something needs to be done.
We will end this farce.
Keir Starmer, the answer isn't robbing people of their voice, their agency.
We will restore serious government to our borders, tackle this problem at source, and replace the Rwanda policy permanently.
The first thing you did when you came to power was scrap the Rwanda policy and replace it with what? Well, nothing. And since then, more and more people have arrived. You're having to put them up in hotels. How many homeless people have we got in this country? Over 1 million. Are they in luxury hotels? What about our soldiers who've come home, returned from fighting?
We've got a lot more people in hotels, at 6 million a day. We're now going to be contributing 150 million to building houses for Ukrainians. But we've still got 6,000 veterans homeless on the streets.
Right.
It is pure violence, and we will not tolerate attacks on mosques or our Muslim communities.
All this tells me is the government's pro the immigrant, anti its own people. If you like this podcast, hit the like button or leave a comment in the comments box below. If you haven't subscribed, may I encourage you to do so? It does help others to find me. And more information is available at talkingpoint.site.